Alrighty, dudes. Standout players from 8 clubs will be made available. So basically, I think this is purely done for the esports scene, obviously, so esport players can use them to their advantage. Mainly, that's the whole theme about it. So to simplify this, really, now my review is not based on meta. Not everything is meta for me. Not all of us are meta players. Not all of us are good at meta. Okay, so if I make it into a tier, number one for me is Tomiyasu, right? I think he's a total game changer. Not only he can play left back, right back, center back. He's a defensive fullback if you use him as a fullback. He can be fast for a big guy with incredible defensive work. Physically strong. He's got slight tackle, aerial superiority, blocker, and interception. Only thing he's missing is acrobatic clearance and fighting spirit, possibly. I did give him acrobatic clearance myself. Well, this is not the version I have, obviously. This is from the pack. So for me, definitely game changer. Again, I don't want to drag player review. If you understand each player ability, what it stands for, combine it with the skill the player has, you can't go wrong training players. If you understand those two, you can't go wrong. So most of you guys know that. For those of you who don't know, I got a video on YouTube explaining both. Because once you understand player ability combined with player skill, it's like a universal player review. You'll instantly know how to train players. Certain players can be trained differently. I would train Tomiyasu very differently if I only use him as a CB or if I only use him as a right back and so on. So for me, Tomiyasu, definitely game changer. Next on my list, I would say he is something unusual. For a big guy with that balance and physically still strong and that speed and acceleration, wouldn't say he's meta. I mean, meta has no personal preference. Most meta players are like fast and agile. None of these players has both in a way. But I would say him, Tomiyasu, are the type of players that can keep a 70% plus win ratio in Div 1. Easily. Of course, if you're good enough, having good players around him. With the skills, he doesn't have most of the skills that, in terms of meta, with meta, you need first time shot, you need acrobatic finishing to finish off balance. You need all that. So he doesn't have all that, but he's a winger. Not every player is supposed to have all these. But remember, he's a Roman flank, so he does come short often. And he can play as a striker. As a striker, her offensive awareness would be very low. So for me, Tomiyasu and him. Rest, I'm ignoring Dybala because his form is inconsistent. Even though he's got permanent B, because his form is inconsistent, he can have down arrow. Same thing even when he was on A form. With him, really, I mean, usually he's a super sub. Look, man, he can have great finishing, he can have great balance, he can have decent technique, offense awareness, but he isn't that fast. It could work if you have two fast wingers, for example, and he's a super sub. So for me, really, if you're going for it, I would say ignore those two. If you need a solid fullback, play center back, if you change formation a lot, definitely Tomiyasu. So for me, Tomiyasu, him, and then it comes down to, let's check him out, right? He has everything you need in a midfielder, okay? The only thing is, I'm not reviewing him based on meta, because if I review him based on meta, first of all, whole player for the meta, they need to have good finishing. His finishing is not going to be that good. Otherwise, for the midfielder, which is the most important thing, through passing for AMF is an absolute must. He does have it. He's got one-touch passing. He's got first-time shot for a tap, and he's got the heel trick, which is very, very effective. And he's got double touch, no soul control though. Oh, soul control as well. So he's got double touch soul control. If you give him flip-flap, that means he can do the Neymar ball rule. And pinpoint crossing, he can play on the left. He's right-footed. So he comes on my list as a third option for a player. His balance could be very high, tight position, super agile, maybe not that fast. Next, I'm going to go with... Personally, I like him. If you don't use wingers, he's no use to you. Obviously, he's not Neymar or Messi where he can cut in and finish. I mean, his finishing could be decent, probably with 8 points. Possibly will reach maybe 80. I do play 4-2-3-1 often, so probably for me, it wouldn't be that bad. But what I don't like is that he can only play LMF, RMF. He doesn't play AMF. He doesn't play SS. Not even SS. I wouldn't use him as a striker with these skills, especially with the finishing and offense awareness. But speed matters. Yeah. However, in my opinion, for a player who could go 90 plus, his balance is not that high at level 1. Really, his balance is not that high. So if I max him out, if I give him, let's say, 95 acceleration, let's say give him 97 acceleration, 95 speed, or 98, 97 speed, 95 acceleration, and his balance is not even 90, But in order, really, Tomiaysu, Rafael Leo, him, and then really Rashford and Lautaro. For me, to simplify this, Rashford is just run and gun kind of striker. I can't compare him to iconic moment version. That game doesn't exist. There's no point comparing. Like if I get him, I'll probably want to train him a little bit differently. Not based on real life. This game is not real life in a way. Even occasionally, I don't say it happens in real life because really, this is eFootball, not football. So you have to take that out of the equation. But for me, like I would like Rashford with a better balance, for instance. But he's a big guy. You can't make a big clunky guy super agile. In terms of finishing, a goal poacher without acrobatic finishing could be a problem. Because the game is meta, really. You score majority of the goals with cutback tap-ins. First time shot. These out of the box shots that you do and all that jazz, that's not gonna keep you consistent, man. I'm telling you. I think at level 1, even though he goes to level 31, at level 1, apart from speed and kicking power, somebody said you can make a knockoff version of Adriano. I can't remember who, but I wasn't happy about that statement. So for me, really, just don't give him complicated balls. Just a simple, clunky big guy, run and gun. Not saying he's not effective. If anything, he could be more effective than Rashford. Because number one, he's a small guy. He can be more agile. Still at level 1, he goes to level like what, 31? When you max him out, he's not super fast. You can't get his speed and acceleration to 90 and still have a decent balance and technique. Finishing, offense awareness, yeah, like a proper striker. And apart from the track back, I don't personally like on a striker. He's got acrobatic finishing, first time shot, doesn't have one touch pass, Marseille turn. He's got fighting spirit, which with this current patch, apparently fighting spirit was going to make your finishing and passing more accurate. Like when the player's tired. So fighting spirit is going to be the new even super duper meta.